This video is going to be another one of my commentaries. I did a lot of them back, going back 5 years, let's say. And that period of time from 5 years ago or so, when we were caught up in a lot of things that happened, there was a lot of political deals, there was a lot of restrictions, a lot of unrest, violence, and we kind of knew after like 2020, 2021 that this country was on a course that no matter what happened or if things kind of got right again, which they kind of have for at least a small period of time, this country has changed and it's never going to go back to the way it was. That was the consensus back in that time period. And it's kind of true. Now, when President Trump got reelected, it was like a giant relief for an awful lot of people in this country. And it was a disaster and a very bad outcry of people that he was in there, and some pretty harsh things were being said. Okay? But if I said something from the other end of the opinion that didn't mesh with the people who control platforms like YouTube and Facebook and other things, I would be silenced and I was suspended numerous times for making commentaries about the current situation in that period of time. And, almost lost my channel. I come very close to being totally obliterated, all right? These people who control this were sending a warning, and YouTube is a privately owned platform. So whenever you sign your agreements to be allowed to post things, they can terminate you. There is no constitutional rights, there is no freedom of speech, okay, when you use this said platform. There are other platforms where you can use them, but Google has a monopoly on the internet and information and how anything that I make, any content that I make, how it's seen. Okay, it can be isolated or it can go viral, depending on how many people click on the video. So that's the situation there. But I said it that it's a global war, that not only the U.S. but the whole world is being crushed under this thing. And when we look back at the past few years, unchecked immigration, which is not just a problem in the United States, it's throughout all of Europe and everything else. I don't really think there's a whole hell of a lot of people going into China or Russia, but it's mostly the EU, and Poland's got issues with it. Most of the European nations and the United States have problems with unchecked immigration. Now, when you look at all these things that have happened, okay, unregulated immigration, lawlessness, basically where they decriminalized everything that short of murder, the police will not respond to your calls at your home in a lot of places, okay? And just the unlimited spending and the deficit that has been created, and throw in the not only a corrupt government, unlimited spending, the corrupt medical system, and the failure and inadequacy of our education system. Okay? This is how, as Victor Hansen said, these are the things you do to destroy a country. Okay? One thing about the economy, which is in a tank, someone once stated that the economy of a country is determined, and how well the standard of living in said country is determined by how the government manages that country. Kind of see, that's kind of the truth, okay? And our government is extremely corrupt and divided. I believe we've had a non-functional government for at least more than 10 years where nothing gets done, the wheels just spin, there's no changes, and everything dependent on elections still or influence leans to one side or another, okay? So we got serious problems with the government. Now when President Trump come in, he said he's going to, straighten all this out. And like I made that other video, it appears that somebody is holding up this or interfering with it, not allowing it to happen. Okay, so what is he doing? He came in strong. A lot of people were happy. He tried to make changes. He did a lot of things immediately, is what he promised. How effective they are or what they've done to make things better, I can't say. I can say at least something has changed to kind of reverse the tide. All right? Spending has increased, our deficit and our debt has increased. The economy is in very bad shape. I believe there's going to be, like they said, a collapse of our economy somewhat. Not to where, like we're in Zimbabwe, where we're issuing $10 trillion notes. We're not going to get that far like these third world countries. But there's going to be a depression. We're in a recession now. We have been for years. And a lot of people are saying soon, by the end of the year, beginning of next year, we're going to be in a depression status. Now this goes back to a lot of people when I was making comments on that about the global thing of the Great Reset. Okay, this is where our global economic system is not functioning and has a lot of issues. So the Great Reset, they're going to do some catastrophic thing with the whole global financial system and change it. It'll be different. And a lot of it, if it goes with electronic currency, you will be totally controlled, monitored, and watched. This is where technology is kind of screwing us over. I mean, yeah, it's convenient just to pull out a debit card and tap it and pay and just walk right out. Simple, keep track of it. But when they get too much control and start telling you what to do, or if for some reason you're doing something like selling stuff at a garage sale or something like that, and you just pocket the money in cash, and then, they want to tax you, so you have to tell them where you're getting this money from. And you're going to see that you are going to start being taxed. If you start putting just random cash in your bank account, that is not your pay, and not, say you sold something. Say you sold, I have an antique Victrola up here that my great-grandmother owned. Say I take it to an antique store, and somebody gives me $500 in cash for it, okay? Or say $800, go over that $600 limit. I go put it in my bank account, and they're like, well, where did you get this $800 from? Are you laundering money or selling narcotics or getting a payoff from a terrorist organization? And they know a way to hide it. And they want to outlaw the use of cash. We see that in my stacking channel. Anybody buying and selling precious metals or coins, a lot of people like these deals in cash. In other words, I pay you in cash. There's no record of it. I take the silver, which if you did that a year ago, and say you bought $5,000, $10,000 worth of silver, you've actually made out pretty good with silver at almost $45 an ounce when you were buying it at $23. Okay, you've just about taken out the thing. You've come close to making 70-80% on your money. Okay? Now, if you can liquidate it without it showing and getting cash back, okay, that's why they want to go to digital currency and eliminate cash. So we got this coming up. And these are the things that I know are going to hit us and hit everybody hard. Now you throw in the other stuff. Okay, this past month and a half, all right, you had one shooting with the school and a horrific thing of the children being killed. And again, another mass shooter targeting people in a school, church, whatever. And all of these things follow a pattern. Okay, a lot of these people, they never study the person. Okay, and see, and this is where the corrupt medical system comes in. And also the way our society is. The way our society and people think and behave also creates this. Because a lot of these individuals that were shooters, you know, they can say mental illness, whatever. If you kind of look into it, like this guy here, his little manifesto got out before they could silence that. Again, was depressed and he's been on some sort of medication probably from a very early age. A lot of people do that. Their child misbehaves, they don't discipline them, they can't cope. They take the child to a doctor, and of course a doctor like mine, I myself had issues with type 2 diabetes, and I asked the doctor, I was working 10, 12-hour shifts 6 days a week. I said, I don't have time to overeat or consume or whatever. Like you're telling me, you eat too much, you eat the wrong foods and everything else. So I don't have time to do that. All I said was, could stress be a factor in my medical condition causing problems? All I said was the word stress. Okay, it's like he didn't, as a reflex, I said stress. A prescription pad flew out of his lab coat pocket and he's clicking a ballpoint pen. I said, hold on a minute. I'm not asking you for, they call it anti-anxiety medication. I just said, could stress be a factor in my condition? And of course the answer is no, because if the doctor diagnosed you with work-related stress and I can't find a job, it's grounds to get disability, and they will not put anything in your medical record that will help you get any type of disability or even the slightest chance of it, unless it's some kind of a grave physical injury that you've experienced on the job. Okay? So, it's just the fact that all I said was stress, and this guy was going to write me a prescription for something immediately, like a reflex. A lot of people say that the effects of a lot of this medication permanently changes your body chemistry and rewires your brain to where if you try to stop taking this medication, there are some very serious side effects. How true it is, I don't know, but it kind of sounds, there's several people that have said that there are studies that prove this. And you see probably a pattern where a lot of these people were taking some sort of medication for mental issues that was a common denominator in all these mass shootings. Now you throw in just the lawlessness with people just blatantly robbing stores. There's all kinds of smash and grab robberies, be it clothing, jewelry stores, which a lot of these are starting to turn violent, especially out in California. There's a lot of people being shot, killed. There's a lot of the major cities, they just break into stores. you know, they just 30, 40 people come in, just rob the place and leave. You know, and there's no way to stop this. Okay. Shoplifting, another thing. If you watch a police videos, they always nail shoplifters. I mean, that's extremely common incident, and it does get somewhat violent at points there. So you have the lawlessness, mass shootings. Now you throw in with this Charlie Kirk thing, and also with the lawlessness, that random killing of the woman on the train. Okay, that makes no sense. You had all of these things going on. Then you get the political assassination with Charlie Kirk. Okay, that alone, was another terrible thing. Okay, on top of all these terrible things going on. And it's very confusing. There's hundreds of videos out there from all kinds of different people saying all kinds of bizarre things. And speculation, conspiracy theories, it's all run wild. And if you go and look at what the battlefield curator did, he went down this list, goes on for 20 minutes, but all these things, and he explains how we have not been officially given enough information, and even though a lot of us on gun channels are somewhat experts in that, but all of these things don't make sense. People are jumping to conclusions and starting these, he calls them way out into the left field or something, theories, okay, that don't make any sense. And when something doesn't make any sense, and there's so much rhetoric and other people saying things that, anybody familiar with firearms knows a lot of this is not true. And it adds to more confusion. It adds to more wild theories. But the thing is, the way law enforcement is handling it is very unusual. The reaction and how it's being officially broadcast is very unusual. And it's confusing. So that means that basically we're being lied to. Again, they had his memorial service, which I thought was nice that the people turned out for it. I mean, the man did have an impact on our country. And the thing is, it appears that he was making a difference. He was shifting the dynamics. And now it's opened the door to a very large political divide. And things, this is not good. Okay, a lot of people said, well, in the past, like say 4 or 5 years ago, there's going to be a civil war. Okay. A civil war, the last one we had was where states, for economic and political reasons, separated and wanted to break free from the country. I doubt very much you will see something, and I mean, they said it, but you don't have the people or the political and economic structure for sections of the country to break away like that again and try to form a separate nation. That's not gonna, in other words, the circumstances from 100 some odd years ago are not what is currently today. So that's not possible in one way. There is a divide in the government, and there is a lot of political, how can I say it? It's a political weaponization and attacking and that. Okay, our government is severely divided. There are two factions in there, it's obvious. Okay, and where the hell it's going to go, I have no idea. Alright? Now, combined with the fact of the economic issues, which are global, and we have several wars. We got one in Europe, one in the Middle East, something going on in South America, tensions in Asia. And I still don't think they've ever sorted things out in Syria and that, but that's the Middle East. And that's been ongoing. And this isn't good. And the negotiations or what's going on to kind of curtail these wars are not working out to plan. Okay? Actually, they're getting far worse. President Trump was in Europe, supposedly speaking with people about all these things and what's going on. I have no idea. Okay? Something's got to give here. Okay? The violence just going on in our nation around us. We've had the National Guard called into Washington, D.C. The National Guard was sent to Chicago. There are some independent people reporting here that they're bringing more fencing, security fencing in Washington, D.C. They don't know. There's supposed to be some high-level foreign people coming for meetings from different places, and they don't know if they're expecting some sorts of protest or more unrest, violence, rioting, whatever. Okay? And just the normal level of violence out in town has, anywhere, has also increased. Okay? I myself almost had a road rage incident this weekend just going grocery shopping. Nothing came of it, but, kind of thinking it could have gotten to where it could have been. Okay? I was lucky. But that's my little brush with the way society is kind of coming unglued in the current environment that we're in. And this is something. Now, if they do collapse, if there is a giant shift with the money, and we do slide into a depression, there are a lot of people who are losing their jobs. A lot of these companies are talking about downsizing here in the future. There's going to be a lot of unemployed people. Okay, there's a lot of people that can't make ends meet now, and there are record numbers of people defaulting on a credit card debt, their home mortgages, and just debt in general. Add the downsize of the labor force, this will just escalate this. We are on a verge, I guess, of some very serious economic issues coming up here. Now you got economic issues, you got political violence, you got unrest just in society itself, you got ongoing wars that are kind of have us involved. With all these factors, I believe you just need one major incident to where the government could come and clamp down on us, declare martial law, or actually activate the National Guard in a lot of different major cities. And I believe, my belief, and what I strongly believe, is all of this was deliberately allowed to happen to achieve that end goal, where whoever or whatever government you have is running things will have total control and power over the people and subjugate them through technology. Talking about freezing bank accounts, okay? How many of you out there have enough cash in your home to exist the rest of your life living off that cash? You don't. How many of you still have a checking account or even can write a check? All right, everything goes through a computer, through them cards, and, electronic payments. You can be shut off. You could have your assets all frozen. You're basically in a very vulnerable position on top of the fact that as society is crumbling and you could just be going about your business like I was, going to the store or going out across town to eat dinner and end up in some sort of a situation that will not end up, could turn violent at a moment's notice for absolutely no reason at all. You know, there's a lot of things that we should keep an eye on, and I think, like one person said, the only way to thwart all of this is to back away from a lot of the stuff online, a lot of these rhetoric. You know, keep close to your family, your friends, the people in your community, your neighbors, okay? Because if things do get ugly, these are the people you're going to have to rely on to help, to stand together, to, you know, that's about the only way you can fight back, is on that level. And then hopefully as your community gels or whatever and things do change, you know, that's about the only defense you have, is relying on, you know, people on a personal level who live around you, okay? And that's another thing. You see people on the cell phones. People become so self-centered. They don't care about anyone else but themselves. And this is how an entity or force or whatever you want to call it, government, has the ability to manipulate you and to keep you under control. And that's the problem. Okay? I don't know. Well, those are my thoughts on it. I just had to say something with everything going on, getting bombarded by this. It's difficult for me to even make up an opinion or even know what's really going on. But it's not good. I can put it to you that way, and it's really making me nervous. Alright, hit the like button, subscribe, and stay tuned.